An undercover CEO walks into his own store, posing as a regular customer. What happens next exposes a shocking web of deception. When Alexander Hayes, the CEO of Next Gen Electronics, noticed rising complaints about shady sales tactics, he didn't send an email or hold a meeting. He went undercover. What did he discover? Employees lying to customers, selling defective products as new, and managers turning a blind eye. But he wasn't just there to watch. He was there to clean the house. Stay tuned, because this undercover CEO story is about to take a dramatic turn. Alexander Hayes had built Next Gen Electronics from the ground up, expanding it into a respected chain of high-end electronics stores. He prided himself on offering quality products, transparent pricing, and honest customer service. But lately, something felt off. Over the past few months, he had noticed an alarming rise in customer complaints. Reports of misleading sales tactics, hidden fees, and defective, refurbished items being sold as new were piling up. Loyal customers, once eager to shop at his stores, were now warning others to stay away. At first, Alexander assumed it was an isolated issue. He reached out to his regional managers, expecting explanations and solutions. Instead, he got rehearsed responses and vague excuses. Customers always complain about pricing, one manager had written. It's just part of the business. Another brushed off warranty complaints, claiming some people just don't read the fine print. These answers didn't sit right with him. Alexander had built his company on trust and reliability, and he refused to let it crumble due to dishonesty. Determined to uncover the truth, he decided to see the situation firsthand. Rather than relying on secondhand reports, he would go undercover as a regular customer and experience what the average shopper faced. This wasn't the first time he had stepped into the field to evaluate his stores, but this time was different. This time, he suspected, he wouldn't like what he found. Choosing one of his mid-performing locations, a store in a suburban shopping district 2 hours from headquarters, Alexander planned his approach. He would pose as Dan Miller, a middle-class construction worker looking to buy a laptop for his son. His usual sharp suit was swapped for faded jeans, a hoodie, and a scruffy beard. He even borrowed an old, dented sedan to complete the disguise. As he pulled into the parking lot, he took a deep breath. If dishonesty had taken root in his business, he needed to know, and more importantly, he needed to fix it. Alexander knew that if he wanted to uncover the truth, he couldn't walk into the store as himself. Employees would straighten up, follow procedures, and put on their best customer service smiles the moment they recognized the CEO. He needed to blend in, to experience the store just as any ordinary shopper would. That meant crafting the perfect disguise. His transformation into Dan Miller, a blue-collar construction worker, was meticulous. He traded his tailored suits for a worn-out hoodie, faded jeans, and scuffed sneakers. His neatly styled hair was hidden under a baseball cap, and a scruffy beard, courtesy of a professional makeup artist, added years to his face. Thick, smudged glasses and a slightly hunched posture completed the look. To eliminate any hint of wealth, he borrowed an old, dented sedan from a friend, ensuring no one would suspect he was anything more than an average customer looking for a good deal. With his cover ready, he chose his target, one of the company's mid-performing stores located in a suburban shopping district. It was far enough from headquarters that most employees had never seen him in person, making it the perfect place to observe the store's real culture without interference. As he parked outside, he took a moment to survey the storefront. The large Next Gen Electronics sign gleamed under the afternoon sun, a beacon of technology and customer service. At least, that's what it was supposed to represent. Inside, however, he suspected a very different reality. With a deep breath, he stepped out of the car, adjusting his cap. Time to find out what was really happening behind the scenes. As soon as Alexander stepped inside Next Gen Electronics, he was greeted by bright showroom lights, neatly arranged laptop displays, and a soft hum of background music. Before he could take more than a few steps, a salesman spotted him and swiftly made his way over. James Turner, according to his name tag, was in his late 30s, dressed in a crisp polo and slacks. His smile was wide, but his eyes held a sharp, calculating glint. "Looking for something in particular today, sir?" James asked smoothly. Alexander kept his posture relaxed. playing the role of an uncertain customer. "Yeah, I need a good laptop for my kid. He's starting college, and I don't want something too fancy, just reliable. Budget's about $1,000. James nodded eagerly. "Oh, you're in luck. I have the perfect model for you." Without hesitation, he guided Alexander toward a sleek silver laptop displayed at the center of the showroom. "This one normally sells for $1,400, but I can knock it down to $1,100 just for you. Special promotion today." Alexander examined the laptop, running his fingers along the edges. He immediately noticed faint scratches near the hinge. His instincts kicked in. This wasn't a brand new model. "Looks nice," he said, keeping his tone casual. "It's brand new, right?" "Absolutely," James said without missing a beat. "Just a display model, barely touched." Alexander glanced at the specs, pretending to consider the offer. "Does it come with a warranty?" James hesitated for half a second before regaining his salesman charm. "Oh yeah, standard 1-year manufacturer's warranty, but I highly recommend our premium extended warranty package. Covers everything. Accidental damage, battery replacement, the works." The way James had pivoted so quickly raised another red flag. Alexander wasn't just dealing with an eager salesman. He was dealing with a pro at manipulation. "I'll think about it," Alexander said, feigning indecision. James's smile tightened slightly. "No pressure, but these sell out fast. I'd hate for you to miss this deal." The high-pressure tactics were clear, something wasn't right, and Alexander was determined to find out just how deep the deception ran. Alexander wasn't about to take James's word at face value. If the salesman was pushing so aggressively, there was a reason. He picked up the laptop, flipping it open and running his fingers along the edges of the keyboard and trackpad. Something felt off. The keys had slight wear, the trackpad surface wasn't as smooth as it should be for a brand new device, and faint smudges lingered around the hinges. Still keeping up his act, he turned to James. "Mind if I check something real quick?" James' smile didn't waver, but his posture stiffened ever so slightly. "Of course, but I promise, you won't find a better deal anywhere else." Alexander flipped the laptop over and checked the serial number on the bottom. He discreetly pulled out his phone, typing it into the manufacturer's website. The results loaded almost instantly, and confirmed his suspicion. The laptop wasn't new. It had been sold and returned 3 months ago. The manufacturer's system listed it as a refurbished model, meaning it had likely been repaired after being sent back by a previous customer. Yet, James had presented it as brand new. Alexander looked up at James, keeping his expression neutral. "So, this model just came in?" James nodded quickly. "Yeah, straight from the warehouse. You're getting a steal." "Right," Alexander muttered, scrolling further down the web page. The original purchase date flashed on the screen. This laptop had a history, one that James had conveniently omitted. He decided to push further. "Do you have the original packaging, just to make sure everything's there?" James barely hesitated before shaking his head. "Unfortunately, we don't keep the boxes for display models. But don't worry, I'll throw in a free laptop bag to make up for it." That was another lie. If this had been a true display model, it should have come with all its original packaging, including warranty cards and manuals. Instead, James was covering his tracks. Alexander faked a thoughtful nod, pretending to consider the offer. He wasn't ready to confront James just yet. Instead, he needed to dig deeper, see if this deception was just one salesman's shady tactic, or if it ran all the way up to management. "I think I'll take a look around first," he said, handing the laptop back. James's smile didn't fade, but Alexander caught the flicker of irritation in his eyes. This wasn't just about one dishonest salesman, something bigger was at play. Leaving James behind, Alexander wandered further into the store, keeping an eye out for anything unusual. He passed through the aisles of neatly displayed gadgets and accessories, eventually making his way to the repair and service counter at the back of the store. If anyone knew the truth about the products being sold here, it would be the technicians who worked on them. A young man in his mid-20s was hunched over a workbench, carefully prying open the back panel of a laptop. His name tag read Liam Carter, and unlike the salespeople on the floor, he wasn't wearing a crisp polo, just a simple gray work shirt smudged with grease stains. He looked up as Alexander approached, offering a quick nod. "Need help with something?" Liam asked, wiping his hands on a rag. Alexander played his part, rubbing the back of his neck sheepishly. "Yeah, I was looking at a laptop up front. The guy told me it was brand new, but I don't know. Something felt off. Ever see anything like that happen here?" Liam hesitated for a moment, glancing toward the showroom as if checking for eavesdroppers. Then, lowering his voice, he leaned in slightly. "Depends. Which model was it?" Alexander described the laptop, and Liam's brows immediately furrowed. "Yeah, I know that one. It was returned a while ago. Customer had issues with the battery overheating. We ran some diagnostics, but instead of sending it back to the manufacturer, management just had us reset it and put it back on the shelf." That confirmed it. James hadn't just been bending the truth, he had outright lied. And worse, it wasn't just his own scheme. The store's leadership was actively pushing faulty products onto customers to make a quick profit. Alexander let out a low whistle, keeping his tone light. "So they just slap a discount on it and call it a day?" Liam sighed. "Pretty much. Look, not everyone here is shady. Some of us actually care about doing things right, but when the top guys only care about sales numbers, there's not much we can do." That was exactly what Alexander needed to hear. The problem wasn't just one bad apple. It was baked into the store's culture. "Thanks for being straight with me," Alexander said, offering a nod of appreciation. Liam gave a half smile. "Just be careful who you trust here." Alexander's jaw tightened. He had seen enough. Now it was time to act. As Alexander left the repair area, his mind was racing. Liam's confirmation that management was knowingly reselling defective products solidified his suspicions, but he needed more proof that this wasn't just a one-off case. It didn't take long to find it. Near the checkout counter, James was at it again, this time with a young couple, who looked to be in their early 30s. The man had his arm around the woman's shoulder as they both examined a mid-range laptop on the counter. "This one's perfect for you," James was saying, his voice oozing confidence. "Powerful, fast, and it comes with a 1-year manufacturer's warranty." The woman hesitated. "What about accidental damage? I've heard repairs can be expensive." James grinned and pounced on the opportunity. "Great question. That's why I strongly recommend our extended protection plan. Covers everything. Water damage, cracked screens, battery replacements. Only $299.99, and trust me, it's worth it. Without it, if something happens, you could be looking at $500 to $600 in repairs." Alexander watched closely. The pitch sounded reasonable, until James' next move. "We actually require the extended warranty on all laptops," James added smoothly. "It's store policy. We bundle it with every sale to make sure customers are fully covered." Alexander's eyebrows lifted. That was a lie. There was no such policy. The extended warranty was always optional, but James had framed it as mandatory, essentially forcing customers into an upsell. The couple exchanged uncertain glances. The man shifted uncomfortably. "So, we don't have a choice?" James shrugged casually. "Look, it's for your own benefit. I wouldn't recommend it if it wasn't worth every penny." Alexander had seen enough. Not only was James lying about products, but he was also misleading customers into unnecessary add-ons. How many people had fallen for this scam? How many had walked out thinking they had no other option? He clenched his jaw, forcing himself to stay calm. He wasn't ready to blow his cover just yet. Instead, he took a deep breath and stepped forward. "Hey, quick question," he said, making his presence known. "Who said the warranty was required?" James's expression flickered for a fraction of a second before his salesman's smile returned. "Oh, it's just how we do things here," he said smoothly. "Corporate wants customers to have full coverage, makes life easier for everyone." Alexander crossed his arms. "That's interesting, because I read the store's policy online before I came in, and it says the extended warranty is completely optional." A tense silence settled between them. The couple looked at James expectantly, waiting for an explanation. James's confidence cracked just slightly, his fingers twitching at his side. "Well, it's highly recommended, you know. Most people get it. It's just smarter." Before James could dig himself deeper, a new voice entered the conversation. "Is there a problem here?" Alexander turned to see Mark Reynolds, the store manager, approaching. He was in his mid-40s, stocky, with neatly combed hair and a confident air. His name tag gleamed under the fluorescent lights. "I heard some concerns. What seems to be the issue?" James let out a small breath of relief, stepping back as if handing over the situation. Alexander kept his stance relaxed but firm. "Yeah, I was just asking about a store policy. Your salesman here said the extended warranty is required for all laptop purchases, but according to the official company policy, it's optional. So, which is it?" Mark's eyes flicked to James, and for a moment, there was something unspoken between them. Then, with the ease of someone who had done this before, Mark let out a small chuckle. "Ah, sounds like a little misunderstanding. Of course, the warranty is optional. We just highly recommend it because it benefits our customers." Alexander didn't buy it for a second. He had seen this type of deflection before, calm, casual, designed to smooth over complaints without actually fixing anything. "Right," Alexander said, nodding slowly. "And what about the laptop James tried to sell me earlier? He said it was brand new, but the serial number says it was returned 3 months ago. That's another misunderstanding, right?" Mark's jaw tightened, but he quickly masked it with a forced smile. "Sir, if you have concerns about a product, we'd be happy to." Alexander took a step forward, lowering his voice just slightly. "I'm not just another customer. I know exactly what's going on here." Mark frowned, the fake politeness fading. "And who exactly are you?" Alexander took a deep breath. It was time to drop the act. Alexander exhaled sharply, then reached up and pulled off his glasses and fake beard. The transformation was subtle, but enough to make Mark's face drain of color. "My name is Alexander Hayes, CEO of Next Gen Electronics," he said evenly, "and I just caught your salesman lying to customers right in front of you." The room fell silent. James visibly stiffened, while Mark's forced smile vanished entirely. He opened his mouth, perhaps to salvage the situation, but Alexander wasn't interested in excuses. "I just tried to buy a laptop," he continued, his voice cool but firm. "I was told it was brand new when it was actually refurbished. I was told a mandatory warranty fee was required when that's a complete lie, and I just spoke to your repair technician who confirmed that you've been pushing defective products onto customers for months." Mark swallowed hard, but James, perhaps thinking he could still spin the situation, let out a nervous laugh. "Look, Mr. Hayes, this is all a big misunderstanding. We just try to help customers make informed choices, you know? We wouldn't..." Alexander held up a hand, cutting him off. "You're done here, James. Pack up your things and leave." James's face twisted in anger. "You can't just..." "I can, and I just did," Alexander said, his voice sharp. "You knowingly lied to customers, misrepresented store policy, and used high-pressure tactics to manipulate people. That's not salesmanship, it's fraud. Get out." James sputtered a few protests, but quickly realized he wasn't going to win this fight. With a muttered curse, he stormed toward the back of the store. Alexander turned back to Mark, whose forehead was now slick with sweat. "And you," he said, his voice lower but no less commanding, "you knew about this. You let it slide. How many other salespeople are doing the same thing under your watch?" Mark hesitated, then finally sighed. "Look, corporations put a lot of pressure on us to hit numbers. We have quotas to meet, and sometimes..." "I don't want to hear it," Alexander cut in. "I don't run this company on deception, and I'm not about to let one of my stores get away with it. Either you fix this mess immediately, or you're gone too." Mark nodded stiffly. He had no other choice. Alexander glanced around the store. Employees had gathered, some watching nervously, others looking almost relieved. It was clear this was just the beginning of a much bigger cleanup. With James fired and Mark put on notice, Alexander wasted no time putting a plan into action. He wasn't just there to punish bad behavior, he was there to fix the system that allowed it to thrive in the first place. That same evening, he called his corporate team and ordered a full internal audit of the store's sales records, customer complaints, and warranty add-ons. Within days, a corporate task force was on site, interviewing employees, reviewing sales tactics, and analyzing return data to see just how deep the deception ran. One of the first changes Alexander implemented was eliminating commission-based deception. Salespeople had been rewarded for pushing expensive warranties and upsells, regardless of whether customers actually needed them. That was over. From now on, sales commissions would no longer be tied to misleading tactics. Instead, a new bonus system would be introduced, rewarding employees based on customer satisfaction, repeat business, and honesty in transactions. Mark was given one last chance to prove he could lead with integrity. Under Alexander's direct supervision, he held a mandatory meeting with the entire staff. He laid out the new expectations: no more deceptive upselling, no more misleading warranties, and no more pushing refurbished products as new. Those who couldn't adapt to the changes were free to leave. A few employees grumbled, but most, especially the newer staff, welcomed the shift. As for the employees who had quietly resisted the toxic culture, they were finally recognized. Liam, the repair technician who had spoken the truth, was promoted to lead technician. His role now included ensuring product quality before items hit the sales floor. Meanwhile, a junior salesperson, Rachel, who had been overshadowed by aggressive coworkers, was promoted to senior sales associate, someone Alexander believed could lead with honesty. Within weeks, the shift was already visible. Customer complaints dropped. Refunds for misled purchases were processed, and for the first time in months, the store's reviews began turning positive. Alexander knew this was just the beginning. The entire company needed reform. And he wasn't about to stop here. A month later, Alexander returned to the store, not as an undercover customer, but as the CEO overseeing the changes firsthand. From the moment he stepped inside, he could feel the difference. The high-pressure sales tactics were gone, replaced by a more welcoming and professional atmosphere. The staff was engaged, helping customers without pushing unnecessary add-ons. The tension that had once loomed over the store had dissipated, replaced by a sense of genuine customer service. As he walked past the laptop section, he noticed a middle-aged woman speaking with Rachel, the newly promoted senior sales associate. "So, the warranty is optional?" the woman asked, frowning slightly. Rachel smiled reassuringly. "Completely optional. It does cover accidental damage, but if you're careful with your laptop, the manufacturer's warranty might be enough. Totally up to you." The woman nodded in appreciation. "Wow, I wish all stores were this honest." Alexander felt a deep sense of satisfaction. This was the kind of company he had envisioned from the beginning, one built on trust, not manipulation. Further down the store, he found Liam in the service area, now in his new leadership role. A technician approached him with a laptop with concern on his face. "Hey Liam, this one was returned last week. Battery issue again. Should we test it before restocking?" Liam shook his head firmly. "Nope. If it had a battery issue once, we're not putting it back out. Let's process it as defective and send it back to the manufacturer." Alexander smiled. The culture had shifted. Later, as he walked out, he spotted Mark, the store manager, watching him nervously. Mark had kept his job, but only because he had committed to change. The store's performance had stabilized, and employees no longer felt pressured to deceive customers. Before leaving, Alexander addressed the staff. "This store is proof that integrity pays off. Sales are steady, customers are happy, and you're building real trust. Keep it up." As he drove back to corporate headquarters, he knew this was just the beginning. Across all 12 locations, audits were in progress, and managers were being retrained. What had started as an undercover mission had turned into a company-wide reform. Honesty wasn't just a corporate slogan anymore. It was the new foundation of next-gen electronics. The story of Alexander Hayes' undercover mission teaches a powerful lesson about integrity in business. Cutting corners for short-term gains will ultimately lead to long-term failure. The deception at next-gen electronics wasn't just the fault of a few dishonest employees. It was a result of a toxic sales culture that prioritized numbers over ethics. By allowing deceptive tactics to flourish, the company had damaged customer trust, employee morale, and its own reputation. However, Alexander's actions prove that leadership sets the tone. When he held people accountable, rewarded honesty, and restructured sales incentives, the business didn't collapse, it thrived. His decision to value customer satisfaction over manipulation restored faith in the brand and empowered employees to take pride in their work. This story serves as a reminder that trust is a company's most valuable asset. Customers are not just transactions, they are relationships built on transparency and respect. Businesses that prioritize ethics over quick profits don't just survive, they create loyalty, stability, and long-term success. In the end, honest leadership doesn't just change policies, it transforms entire organizations.